How you doing, everybody? Hi, Tim. Hi, Dom. John. How you guys doing today? Um, maybe it'll stop raining. Or I was watching animals walking down the street in two by twos. It's really been very rainy here, and maybe it's drying up now. But we needed the rain, and now we don't. Hey, Russell. How you doing? Hi, neighbor. You guys coming coming above coming up for some air. Hi, John. They have their own movement. Ahim Rotor. Hi, Tony. Michael. How you guys doing? Oh, great. Yeah, Michael. I tell you, that watch, after everything we went through on that thing, it really did turn out, I think, very, very nice. In fact, in some ways, I like it better than the original because I just like the colors better. I got the blue. Some of the guys got the gold, which is really nice. And another one's got the brown. So, I mean, here we are. We got, instead of having one oxidizing watch, we've got three. Well, actually, we have five, including some of the guys with the maroon ones didn't run into the oxidation problem. But it's really going along. Okie doke. Here's what I wanted to talk about today. For a long time, as many of you know, I've been really upset about the fact that watch companies are sort of, they don't want to tell us everything because they're using cheap movements. All right, that's basically what it comes down to. And then they say, well, they fixed them up, and so they're really not cheap movements anymore. Maybe, maybe not. All they got to do is tell us. I think that's important. Okay, but this isn't what I want to talk about today. The recently I did a review of the Christopher Ward C12 Loco, and very impressed with it. But I kept finding things that I wish had been better explained. I'm not saying this as so much as a criticism, but as a clarification. Okay, let me give you an example. They talk about having dual barrels in parallel, and they also have a 6-day power reserve. Well, the idea of having two barrels in parallel is that they both use their force together to increase the torque and smooth out the constant force. And it works. Companies like FP Journe use it, and some other really top companies. And so, in looking at this one article I read said, oh, they have their double barrel in parallel, giving it this 6-day reserve. I thought, wait a minute, that's not right. When two barrels are arranged in series, that's where you have your longer reserve. First one uses up all of its power, and then it switches over to the other one, and it uses all of it. Now, it's not absolutely necessary to have a long reserve with two barrels. And so what I did, I got out all of my weekly winders. Okay, these are my watches I have that you have to wind them up once a week. One's a Beauvais, one's a H. Moser, and the other one is a Parmigiani. Okay, let me start with the Parmigiani. The Parmigiani has double barrels. In cereal, the the movement has a frequency of 21,600 semi-oscillations per hour. Okay, that's below 4 hertz. Double barrels, they're set up in cereal, and you get a week. Hebdomadaire, I think, is French for, I mean, good French for a week. Okay, so that has 2 barrels in cereal. My next one is a H. Moser Endeavor center seconds, and it too has double barrels, also in cereal, and it has a frequency of 18,000 semi-oscillations per hour. Yeah, per hour. So those two. Now my third one is the Beauvais 1930, and it only has 1 barrel. It's got a good sized barrel, so it's got this great big barrel, and it lasts a week. So, and its frequency is 21,600. Now, number of things here. First of all, the lower frequencies, they do give you a longer reserve, okay, because it's not going as fast. And so you're not using up the energy as quickly. Okay, so that's one thing. The other thing is that if you have one big barrel and the spring is long enough, you can stretch it out for a week. Now, using 2 barrels in parallel, why this is a problem, to get 2 barrels into the watch, you got to use up some real estate, and usually part of it is that the barrels can't be 2 big barrels unless you have a great big watch. So the as a result, the barrels are smaller, but if they're set up in series, they have enough whammy to go for the whole week. Now, the Christopher Ward, which by the way, I like very much, and when I looked at the way it was set up, and this is one of the things that's great about that watch, is you can really see everything. I mean, it's as clear as a bell. And they don't say whether it's in parallel or in series. They could do that. I mean, it would make it very easy. They could say, "Well, we decided to do it in series so we can get this 6-day reserve." By the way, too, they ran it at 4 hertz, 28,800 semi-oscillations per hour. So, I'm not accusing him or suggesting him. It's sort of like that's pretty basic information that I think is important. And there's all kinds of, I mean, it seems that people are lovers or haters of everything these days. I mean, in terms of watches. Well, for reasons that are totally unrelated to horology, I've always liked Christopher Ward. The reason is I'm a big Morgan fan. I've never owned a Morgan motor car, but I would, even at my daughter age, I'd love to have one, and I'd like to race it too. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that I always liked about them, even with their when I was looking at them, if you dig around a little there, they tell you what's inside. I think it's generally a Solida. For example, the Belcanto had a Solida in it, and so okay, fine. So those are things, but now they have this really magnificent watch, at least in my opinion. And the only thing I had a question about, which is it? Is it parallel or serial? And there's sort of muddy water about a lot of things in there. So I just thought, yeah, come on, just say dun, 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 dun. It's sort of like when you're looking at C24 and say, I wonder what kind of movement it is, and it says automatic. That doesn't tell you anything. Well, it tells you it's automatic, or if it's or manual, but that doesn't really say anything. That's why why don't they just say so? Okay, and now a lot of times, and this is what's even crazier, is that they have something that is really good quality, but they sort of him about it. Um, they said, well, the precision engineering did the balance wheel. That's something. Precision engineering is owned by, they're sort of a subsidiary, not a subsidiary, they're part of a thing that's owned by the same people that own H. Moser at Compagnie. And so they're like, and they're viewed as very high quality movements. Now, they have a company called Christopher Ward does. In 2014, they merged what they call a merger. It doesn't, I guess it is a merger of sorts. Christopher Ward has this company called Synergies um, Horologies. Okay. They are a movement maker in Switzerland, I think in Biel. All right. Now, the Christopher Ward and Synergies Horology is under a big holding company called Christopher Ward Holdings. All right. So that's, it's sort of the setup that they have. So if anybody said, "Oh, they're not in house," okay, because Synergies Horologies use these precision engineering balances. Say, for Christ's sakes, here you should really tell everybody about something, not because you made it or not, but because it is very high quality. Now they go on that, oh, well, now we have a free sprung movement, which is great. I like the curve regulators, but that's another story. Probably, I guess, free sprung balance wheels are really quite good. Now, the thing is that the next part of it was the hairspring. Well, the hairspring I found, and they had it made by, they didn't say, they were very vague about the hairspring. Now, I assumed, if and possibly wrongly so, I assumed that, well, if they're going to get the balance wheel from precision engineering, they'll probably get the hairspring too, because they make some of the best hairsprings in the world. They make the hairsprings that MB&F use. They make it the ones that Ari Caribou and Alanin use, and of course they make the ones that um, Larique uses because of Larique's connection with Aguinar. All right. So, I mean, it just sort of like, here are these gaps, and some of the gaps are something that they get so focused on. It's got to be in house, and they sort of get things a little muddled. Now, I screwed up. I admit it. They had a formula was NiFe, which is nickel and iron, and that was what Elvinar, I think, is what the name of the hairspring is, that I found in one place. But I mean, my sources, I would rather have a source from them saying this is what we use. This is the alloy that was used with our hairspring, and here's why. But they don't. And most collectors don't ask, and they should. We should ask about every single thing they have, and they should provide it for us. In fact, they should provide it for us without even asking, because it's to their benefit. It makes them look better, saying, look, Synergies or OLOGs, they make the movements for us. We design it here and at the Christopher Ward in, I don't know where, London or wherever they're located. And then we work with Synergies or OLOGs. I forgot the name of it. They have some guy who's their main movement maker. Okay, that's all. So there was a big discussion about, oh no, they must be parallel. Well, they look like they're parallel. I mean, if you just look at them, they got the pinions and things like that that look like parallel. But some people pointed out, yeah, but they're at 28 1,800 semi-oscillations per hour. That's not going to give you 6 days, I don't think, because you're dealing with smaller ones, and they're not in series, but rather they're working together, and so they have the same sort of life or the um, same amount of time that they're going to run out. So, but they increase the torque, which evens out the timing. Okay, that's what I wanted to say, and I wanted to get your opinion of it. So basically, it's down to this: when a watch company uses a really good company, tell us about it. I mean, I would think that's would increase sales. If we're crying out loud, if you're using a top watchmaker or a case maker or any other thing, say, hey, this is what we use, rather than, lying on Goober who is back at the workbench. you know. All right, let's see what you have to say. I'm sort of behind here, so let me see where I need to catch up. Um, oh no, John, you can get us all in trouble. A bit like a woman, then slowly let you know. Oh, God. What you're gonna you're gonna get us all in trouble, John. I was okay. How you get? Oh, by the way, too, how are all you guys at Cave? Hi, Caesar, Michael. Maybe they didn't take physics and don't know the difference between resistors and series or parallel. That's quite possible. One of the things when I was in college, we had to take a course in physics, and I did great on the formulas, but I tell you, I would fry all of the electronics. I had two women who were my lab partners, and the three of us would do these things, and they sort of set me up as the one that to get electrocuted. And fortunately, the TA had a crush on one or both of them, and they sort of backed me up. But my physics, when Dominic and I did the resonance watch together, I based that all on physics, not on horology. Now, I did read Zampia, but I went and looked. If you go online, by the way, it's really fun. You can go and you can see all of these resonance experiments. That's essentially what did with Dominic and I did to set up. He's got with this table that Dominic made. We put the two movements in there, and then I simply moved them closer together until they entered into resonance, and they did. So that was sort of fun. But that was from physics, not from horology. So anyway, Michael, I think you may be right. Well, the other thing too, I think there's got to be one person, even if they just had sort of the horological physics, they ought to be able to help us out on that. Okay, let's see what else you guys have. You, all right, let me see. Dummy question: what hairspring is on E2? Is that a Strawman? I think so. I know that I believe, yeah, I think the difference between E1 and E2 is that E1 had the Alto Culpa hairspring, which was the ones that are used by Parmigiani. And then they changed to both the balance and the hairspring over to Strawman on E2. Now that I know for sure it's on the Air Zulu and it's going to be on Air Sultan, but I don't know positively if it's on the E2 or not, Caesar. But it's a good question. See, this is the thing that Larique has been doing. We tell everybody everything. Now, before I go on, and you guys have a lot of good points here, there are times that I found that it makes sense not to mention certain things for different reasons other than screwing the consumer. One watchmaker of a major watchmaker I talked to, I was asking, I said, well, who does this and who does, where do you get all of your parts? Who does your bridges and your plates and this and that and your base plates and who does all of that? And so he was telling me, and then I went to a certain point and he said this. He said, Bill, I don't want to tell you because I don't want our competition to know. Well, that makes sense. I mean, if you got something going on the side, not the side, but I mean, in terms of your production, and you're getting a good price and they're doing a good job, you don't want your competition to know. I mean, I don't blame them, but that's a different kind of thing than saying, "Oh, I'm going to put in, a cheap Myota in this thing," and sort of imply people that it's some kind of great in-house wonderful movement when it's simply a cheap Myota or a cheap anything else. That's different. But on the other hand, I can understand the reluctance to hand over all of your contacts and all of everything you have. That's the nature of any business. Okay, let me get back to your points. You guys are making some great ones here. Let me make this a little bigger. There we go. Where'd it go? Hi, Richard. Good afternoon. Went to CW's website last night. Unlike the Bel Canto, no mention of Armstrong or Crnaud, only emphasis on the balance wheel maker. Yeah, which is the balance wheel maker with precision engineering. They are, in my opinion, okay, they're the top hairspring maker around. And like I said, when I interviewed Edouard Melan, he is I think he's the CEO of H. Moser, but also there's some brothers in the Melan family, and they're all working with different aspects of what they own, including precision engineering. But what he said at the time, they make like 3,000 watches a year now. It used to be 2,000. They're really going crazy with 3,000, and they've partnered up with Agenor. So, but he was telling me, and this was like right before the pandemic. I swear it was a week before New York City shut down for the pandemic, and I was at Cellini's, and we got to have an interview. And the thing that he told me that it was very important to the whole operation that they had were the number of hairsprings. And I said, so how many? 20,000? And it was sort of like, so it was like, I read recently, it was something like 50,000. Now, if you're making 3,000 watches, that means what? 49,700 are used by somebody else, and it's not H. Moser. So it's sort of an interesting kind of thing, and I know how well Agenor is the same way. They have a pretty low number. They concentrate on other aspects. They putting up with all of us, the crazy guys at Larique, but they have a lot of other companies that they work with. We're just one of them. Okay. Wait a minute. HRM sent Brightly in an email about what hairspring they're using in the new B31 movement. Got a reply ranting about the balance wheel instead. That's funny. Oh man. Hey Rancher, how you doing, man? Oh, Rancher, they've always been secretive. Yeah, and I think there's one kind of secretive, and that's to, pull the wool over the consumer's eyes. And there's another thing to sort of protect their competitive interest. I'll put it that way. Okay. Um, Now you got a Shanghai 7120 Abdul, and it took a lot of research to find it was a clone of the 17J. Is the 17J one from Seiko? I'm just asking. I really don't know what it is. Oh, oh, brother. Oh, man. I Oh, Dominic, that's a great analogy. Uh, the they protect that information the same way a chef does with his recipes. Perfect example of a type of what I'll call, at least as far as the consumer, the watch collectors are concerned, that type of secrecy I don't mind. What I do mind is stuff that, a lot of times they get so used to this drumbeat of in-house, 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 that they forget that some of the best things of a in-house are actually something else. I mean, like if you've got if if you have a company like Precision Engineering, another one too. I don't know how many of you are familiar with Alto Culpa, but they're owned by the Sandoz Family Foundation, which is part of their vertical ownership, along with Vauchur and a number of other companies. And so, hey, those guys are pretty good too. Recently, uh, Larique just partnered up, if you could say that, with FP Journe's dial maker. So they're going to be making our dials for us for Air Zulu. And, depending on how it goes, please, it will go well. Will work out okay. Hang on. Let's see. We're just about out of time. Yeah, there it is. Okay, let me answer more. I've got a very strange one at about 9 o'clock, so I got to go anyway. Okay, Dominic, I lost an entire product line to a competitor because of a handshake deal that got broke by dishonest manufacturers. That happens. That happened to me. This guy and I had made these robotic interfaces for this robot. All right, and they finally broke. They tried to ask us for our code, and we wouldn't give it to them. And we had it protected. And they finally broke it, and then that was the end of the business with us. They didn't need us anymore, and so yeah, Dominic, that happens all the time, and it's unfortunate. Okay, one last one. Hey, JGH, CW seems to have a good formula to make great value watches. I do like the C1 Morgan with this small seconds hands at 6 o'clock. I would like to have my own +4. That's what I'd like. You know, any Morgan I'll take. Okay, guys, as Rancher is back with his keeping time, gotta run. I'll be back at 4 o'clock. Hope to see you then. I don't know what we're going to talk about. We'll try to find something fun and informative. If you have any ideas, and Rancher, you have any ideas, I really could use them. Take care.